Hello and welcome to the Women's Empowerment Summit 2020. Today I have with me Andrea Rabermeyer. Andrea is on a lifelong journey of discovery, and along the way she has found that self-awareness is key to overall well-being. Andrea is always learning more about her strengths, how she interacts with others, her areas of ongoing development, and that we all work together in a beautiful and complex system. Trust and leadership are her passions, and Andrea has been fortunate to coach, facilitate, and write about this important topic. She believes we need to learn to trust ourselves first. Trust is also key in developing and fostering relationships with others. Andrea is on a journey of remembering her playful self, her ancestors, and her connection to Mother Gaia. She is an avid lifelong learner, wannabe yogi, writer, blogger, Amazon best-selling author of Trust Leadership, founder of the Wisdom of the Great Lakes Retreats, podcast host of News for the Soul Heart Healer program, Reiki practitioner, quantum healer, and nature lover. She has been married for over 28 years to her husband, Graham, who grounds her every day with his love and passion for life. She is also the proud mom of Emily and Charlie and her two fur babies, Mishka and Phantom. Welcome to the summit, Andrea.
Thank you, Alyson. It's an honor. I love the work you're doing, and I'm just blessed to be in this setting with you and all these beautiful women who will be watching the summit. Very excited for today and curious how this is all going to evolve.
I am too, and I thank you for being here. And I love the fact that you have worked with women, that you are also looking at a journey of being centered, but you come from a background that we both come from, which is a little more logical in leadership. So in working with women, what sort of brought you to working with women so they can find out who they really are?
Interesting. I work with both men and women. My passion, I have more women that I have as clients, but I do work with both. Honestly, I was, trying to think where did this all start? And it really started my master's in leadership. I did my master's in leadership at Royal Roads University in British Columbia. And there's so many stories just in that nugget of my life. And we did, a lot of research papers. And there was one in particular, Mary Wollstonecraft. And I was infuriated with how women were treated, that, if you're emotional, you're illogical, all these, it started to bubble inside of me. And I thought, no, that's not cool. That's not fair. So pretty much all my papers for 2 years were about women empowerment. I researched everything around it. And when I graduated, it was going to be to coach women or to go in a leadership role to help women. It's evolved since then. But women really, honestly, I think there's a lot to what I'm going to, it's not in one little envelope what I want to unravel here, but women have had a bum deal, honestly. And as we go through this beautiful sort of time right now in all our lives, we're starting to see the illusion behind that. Women are powerful, just as powerful as men. We each have our strengths. And over time, for many different, reasons, religious or power hungry reasons, women have been sort of put down. And the whole concept of being emotional is illogical, or being emotional is not a strength. No. I'm also an emotional intelligence coach. Emotions drive us in everything we do. It's a beautiful source of awareness in all forms, in our decision making, in our personal relationships, in our stress tolerance, and just for ourselves. So women, one of the core pieces that I really focused on in my leadership, master's in leadership, is women in leadership, and how women actually are better leaders in a lot of forms. And most often not, especially in collaboration, teamwork, emotional intelligence settings, women excel. And there's tons of research around this, that women do excel in leadership roles. especially transformational leadership, which is a form of leadership that has been proven to build trust, the most trust, more than transactional leadership. I don't want to get too techie around that. I've kind of moved, shifted my life in a different form, but that is kind of where I originated with my passion around women in empowering women and women in leadership roles, especially in healthcare, which was my focus.
Okay. And you mentioned trust a lot. And I know trust in, but also trust in who you are and what you stand for, right? So how did that would that move a woman into having that ability to have power without having the ego?
No, women are allowed power, inner power.
Yes.
Power is good. Uh, the ego is also, I don't dismiss the ego. I think the ego is there, we as a friend, and we work with it. It's our inner child, and we work with our ego. So I never dismiss the ego. And if you do dismiss the ego, I found that it comes back and bites you really hard afterwards. So be friends with your ego. It's more around awareness, like really authentic awareness of who you are. And as women, over time, it is shifting. It's very much shifting. But in the past, women were not aware of who they were. We were told who we were. We were told kind of what we needed to be. We didn't really have a choice, especially my mother's time, my grandmother's time. And I'm, a little more mature in my age, but my daughter is a completely different female and how she views the world. And she's been given that choice. It comes to your strengths and more knowing your strengths, actually, knowing your strengths, being aware of who you are. So having tools or experiences or really great friends or colleagues that give you feedback of around self-awareness of who you really are. And we have challenges, we have blind spots, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There are learning lessons and opportunities to grow. And having those trusted people around us to help us during the path. Coaches are great for this, by the way. Trusted colleagues, but we have to be careful because sometimes they're seeing the world also from a similar perspective that perhaps you are, that might not be serving you. So women, I think the big one right now is self-awareness. And there is a lot coming out about empowering more and more women to just be okay who you are. You're great. There's nothing, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You're just perfect the way you are. And that's a big one for people to swallow. And when they come in my space, pretty much that's where we go. And the work I do is to help people to ground them, to connect to their hearts. And that's a big one. I'm going to have to elaborate on that further. And connect to your super support team, your source energy, God, whatever you want to call it, but to connect. And I think that's also part of it. You're not alone in any form doing this work. But it does start first with you. Go within.
Okay. And sometimes you've helped me a lot with this to sort of cement who I am. And it was almost like walking through a very dense fog, thinking I'm going to fall off a cliff. And then you take one step out of the fog and you're like, that wasn't so bad. But I know being in the fog, it just seems like it is mountainous and it is so difficult to get through. Yes, I can start with myself, but is there something you'd have the women start to do, whether it's self-care or what would that one thing be?
Well, self-care is always good. The basics, always go back to the basics. Drinking water. Water is so important. I've got my water here. Water is very important. It's so basic. Often the most basic things are what we need. Take care of yourself. I'm actually going to give a tool though. Okay. So the basics are to take care of yourself, self-care, pamper yourself, take time off, create white space, find colleagues or friends, one or two, or it could be many, depending on your personality preferences. But I would start with your strengths. I've always been strength-based. As a coach and as a healer, I'm a strength-based. I come from that space. the learning around this is because we used to focus always on what is wrong with you and let's fix it. And when we focus on what's wrong with you, you go nowhere fast. Nothing happens. Again, lots of research around this. There's just not a lot of development or leverage pieces that can shift you to a new awareness, a new behavior, a new habit. What does do the trick is focusing on your strengths. Where do I find my strengths? Good question, right? And so I do recommend get a coach if you can, who does know how to do this. There are different strengths you can do. There's Myers-Briggs, emotional intelligence, but I wouldn't start there. I would start with Positive Psychology Association has a free assessment you can do online called VIA Character Strengths. There's 24 strengths. There's way more that we have, but they did 24, so it's reliable and can't remember the other word. There's rigor within the system, and it's your 5 top strengths. When you do it, share it with a friend or a coach so that you can cement it into your neural pathways, into your brain. Because honestly, when people do this via character strength, pretty much every single time, it's so common sense, their strengths, they don't see them. So we have to cement it into their new neural pathways, so it becomes common sense to use them all the time and become aware of your 5 top strengths. They're called signature strengths. And your best friend, your mom, if you ask them about, does this make sense? Do I show up like this? More often than not, yes, because that's how they see you. Okay.
That's true.
And I'm going to go back to the blind spots. We don't, like I said, something as common sense as water. Our signature strengths, our strengths are so common sense that we're like, oh yeah, but everyone has them. No, they don't.
And women are bad for that, right? Because what we do is it's just something we do every day. We don't look at it as a skill or a habit or whatever. I just do that.
It's a
so we don't even celebrate it. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, and celebration's a whole other piece. Yeah, which is all in my book, by the way. And I didn't pull up my book. I might go get it just to show people, like, go, here's my book kind of moment. So I would start with your strengths and sort of spend time with it, journal it, get feedback on your top 5 strengths. Now they work independently. I always say, just focus on the 5 and don't go to the number 24 and say, I don't have this. That's not a truth. You have all of them. But the top 5 you use more often, especially when you're doing well. When you're excelling, doing well in what we call flow state, you will be using your 5 top signature strengths. And they also work together. They're kind of woven together. They're separate in their own beautiful way, but that's what makes it really unique to each person. Each signature strength has a story and an experience and an emotion, feeling for that person, and they all work together, the 5. Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I remember when I was opening my gyms and things were just happening. People were falling into place. The equipment did, the financing did. And I was quite amazed. And they said, because you're in flow and you're doing what you need to do. And the universe is helping me do it. And that was the first time I sort of heard of the law of attraction and me focusing on what it is that I do well. So I thought it was a pretty cool example.
It's nice to be in flow. Yeah, that's the other thing. When people work with me, you're in flow. I'm in flow. I've done a lot of work around this, especially around quantum healing. Flow is a great place to be. Flow is the moment. I'm just as simple as, I need a parking spot. Ooh, there it is. Thank you. Thank you, universe. Thank you, source. It's just like one thing after the other in flow. But you have to do a practice. And perhaps we'll have time to talk about that, but it has to be intentional. And one of them is focus on your strengths. Going inside, doing the inner work, go within, do the inner work. You are, when you look at those 5 strengths, whatever they are for you, they're brilliant. It's abundance, it's love, it's magnificent, whatever that is for you. There's no judgment around it. So if you do this via character strengths, VIA character strengths, and please look up all the research on it too, or get a coach who's trained in this to go through it with you. On the flip side, because there always is sort of a flip coin moment, is overdone strengths, which is a fun moment. Overdone strengths is using those strengths and overdoing them. So if you're ever in conflict, is the awareness, again, awareness always of, am I overdoing this strength? Even though it's a great strength, for example, caring, beautiful strength. Caring overdone is micromanagement or smothering. How many times has that shown up as a parent or as a leader in an organization? Right. So you have to sort of, again, it's awareness, stepping back, going, oh, that's interesting. And so there are certain languages I use with my clients, being curious, observing, using words, oh, that's interesting. They're not happy with me helping them right now. Oh, I might be overdoing my strength of caring. All right. So then, and then with the model that I created in Trust Leadership, it's a trichetra. So I'm just going to show what a trichetra is. So a trichetra is a Celtic symbol.
I love it.
Yeah. With no beginning and no end. And so I modeled my trust leadership around this. And it doesn't matter where you begin. So you can begin with self-awareness, know self, and do the strengths, understand what your preferences are. There's a whole bunch of great tools to use. And we use them together. We triangulate the data and use it together in order for that person, the client, to really get to know themselves, get back comfortable in their own skin. Okay. And it's part of the process of opening the heart. It's a very gentle way of getting to a client to see themselves from that beautiful perspective of who they are without judgment, so that they can feel safe and start opening their heart. The other one, the next sort of area within the trichetra, so let's say this is self-awareness. The next one would be, again, it doesn't matter where you come from, but I'm just going to sort of go 1, 2, 3 to be a little concrete and logical, would be, I called it communication in my book. In retrospect, I would kind of change that. I call it relationship. Okay. In relationship. So when we know self, when we start to know oneself, and this is very important for women empowerment, know self, you get to know others. We make assumptions about others. We think others see everything from our perspective, from our viewpoint. And especially when we're in what I call the grip or overdone strengths or stressed out. How many are stressed out? We sort of we warp things, and then we start seeing others from that perspective. And that's not a truth. We each individually have our own strengths, our own preferences, our own perspective, our own communication style, our own learning style. So when we find out our own, hopefully, Alyson, I'm not going too fast here. When we experience our own, go within, know self, then we're in better relation with others. And during COVID, we know how important being in relation is. Relationship, it doesn't mean to be an intimate relationship, just a friend, colleague relationship. When we're in relationship, we're less neurotic. Relationships are so important. So important. It's our growth. It's our, we're humans. We're meant to be connected in relationship. So that's part of the empowerment too. And then what I did is this is my stretch, my leadership stretch, and my evolution and my growth is I put energy into my book. I put the whole chapter. So another piece here would be energy. And then this round piece is trust. So you need all three. Whoopsie, that would have sounded awful. You need all three to intentionally create trust. And that's the other thing around trust. It's an intentional, it's not just something that happens. We intentionally create trust. And then the heart is in the center. Always we are within the center. So energy is around all of like energy within like, how's my energy today? Did I drink enough water? Did I sleep enough? Alyson and I were supposed to do this yesterday, and I was like, I can't. I did not sleep enough. I have a new puppy. My other dog was not feeling well, and I didn't sleep. So we rescheduled. That's also self-care. But it's kind of like gauging my energy level too. Like, where am I? Where are others in my space? And then there's the energy of, I pick up energy. Like, I'm an empath and I can pick up the collective energy. And then I have to go, this is important because no self, no others. And then I'm like, is that mine or is that the collective? And then I have to sort of do my work, meditate, take care of myself, go ground, be in nature. So there's a few tools, and I'm sure people are familiar with them. Exercise. Okay. So those are kind of the, and then feminine, masculine, divine energy. I'm not even going to go into that, but if anyone's interested, I do podcasts around this stuff too. So,
and we'll put all those links in the email for everyone to be able to check that out. Because I do know once you do go inside, and a lot of that is trusting yourself and your decisions, because I was very good at being busy and not good at being me in my spoke of everything I'm doing all day. So a lot of what I've learned too from looking at my energy is what needs it and where do I need to be in my life, because there are some things that were maybe important to others, but were not important to what I needed to do to fulfill my mission. And once I got that down, it made a big difference.
Yeah, there's a few points here, Alyson. One is the word be. You know, we are human beings. It's not the doing or the having. We're not, I don't even know how you can say that. Human doings, human havings. We're human beings. So be, right? And that's when we get centered, no self, then we have more discernment of what is it that we need to be. And when you do the be, then you, when you are the be, you do, then you have. And that flow state occurs more in the being. The busy, crazy, somebody texted me the other day, said I'm spinning, is the word they use, spinning state is in the I need to do this to have this state, which is not real. Okay. The other one that you brought, so that's very important. Now, often people hear that. So it's be, do, have, be, do, have, be centered, be happy, be abundant. Oh, what does that mean? Be abundant is gratitude. So it's so big. It's such a high frequency, that one. When you're in have, how are you supposed to be abundant when I don't have this, I don't have that, I need this, I'm gonna have to do that? There, it's a gerbil, it's a little, the gerbil wheel or monkey brain or all these terms we use. I love they're all animal terms. Rabbit, go down the rabbit hole, you know. Pretty much. Yeah. So it's the be, and in the being, and my clients are like, really, you want me to do less? And I'm like, yes, doing less is more. You will get to the state when you will be like ramping it up, but it'll be from a flow state where you're not even notice the time. You're going to be going to bed like, oh my God, what a great day. And you got so much done, but not from a busy spinning space, but from a flow space. Very different. And it's from a heart space and it's from a soul space. So I'm going to go into that because you brought that up a bit. the soul mission. So soul mission. So the work I'm doing now, which is shifted and I've accepted. That's a big one because I was in the academia. I have all the letters behind my name. Actually, I had to take some off because they were getting too long, right? I've got the diplomas on the wall. I've got the books on the shelf. Like I can pull up, quotes and do all sorts of things. But that's not where that's not where I'm meant to be now in this time, this space in 2020. And it was evolving quite quickly. I could feel it in 2018, 2019. I was like, oh my God, what is that? What is that? What is that? And I'm like, I have to drop my executive coaching business. I have to drop this. I have to drop that. Something's coming up that I need to be present and open, because I have to do it for me, always me first. All my work I do is me first. It's not from a selfish perspective, from a selfless perspective. And also the work I do, I have to be 5 to 10 steps ahead of my clients who walk in my space. So I need to do the work. You do you, and you do the work. All of us. My commitment to myself is strong also. So I took everything off my plate and I was like, what? I know I could feel it. It was big. I didn't know what it was. I'm like, something big is happening. And then I got the call in February to do the podcast. And then I was doing soul work, healing work, quantum healing work. And then COVID hit. And I don't think I need to describe that to anyone what that is. And all of a sudden, it just shifted completely. And to be grounded and in heart center is the most important thing. To do the work from within is the most important thing. And I've heard this over and over and over. And I often in my spiritual community or what I read, it's more validation of where I'm at. So I'm grateful that I'm sort of flowing in this space to hold space for others to be in their soul purpose and or their soul mission. From a heart-centered space, grounded, very grounded. Yeah.
Well, you're right. We've had so many rapid changes this year of people, either being more isolated, so they're not having that human connection, or now being at home trying to work and discipline themselves with husbands, spouses, kids, pets underfoot, wanting their attention all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easy to be distracted in those circumstances. So what would be the one thing that women could do just to sort of ground themselves to get through that chaos?
Create your space. To say you don't have space means you don't create the space for yourself. It means you do not. So what's one of the areas that I focus on is boundaries, healthy boundaries. To say I don't have space, I don't have boundaries, that's not a truth. And, to do your work, I did a podcast. I just got my puppy. And so he had to be in my space. He barked quite often during my podcast, but it was fine. I mean, that's real. I mean, how many of us had Zoom calls with our kids popping up right here? It's okay.
That is real life. Absolutely.
It's real. It's authentic. We're all in the same situation. And to think that you have to be different. No. And it really is create space, that white space, that healthy boundaries. And again, they do surprise me, quite honestly. I've had people say, I don't know what you're talking about. What is that boundary? So it's out there that people are not creating them. More often than not, I have as my clients empaths. And an empath is someone who is very, somebody call them sensies, highly sensitive, not only to, sometimes they tune out their emotions, by the way. They're not always emotional, but they're very aware of everyone else around them. And they often don't have clear boundaries. And that clear boundary could just close the door. I can't talk at this time. You know, just because I have clients does not mean, well, unless I stipulated otherwise, that I'm available 24/7. And if I personally don't have the energy for it, because I do gauge that, then I don't respond. And the world doesn't end. And everyone lived and survived. And, you know, as long as they're safe, especially if you have small children and or young pets, they're safe. Yeah. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. And be very clear in articulating your boundaries and holding on to them. That's empowering women.
That makes sense, because you're also empowering yourself to say, this is the space I need and this is the time I need it for. And
yeah, honor self within. Always first. You do you. It's a great motto. It seems to be
I love it.
lately. Yeah. And again, I was on a feed yesterday. I follow Lee Harris. So he's an intuitive, I don't know what he calls himself, intuitive, I guess, intuitive medium. And so somebody was saying, actually, I think it was on another one. I've been on quite a few lately. How do I do this? I've got, you know, everyone wants to, you know, they want to talk to me. They want help from me, da, 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 da. Okay. Or, you know, they need me. I just commented, you do you. And she's like, oh my God, that's exactly what I needed. That's another one. Be aware. Do they really need you, or is it caring overdone? Is it one of your strengths overdone? So when we become aware of self first, do your strengths, become aware of your strengths, then you can become aware of your blind spots. And it does help with creating these boundaries.
That makes sense, because you can also look at the other person and, are they needing me because they feel they're not adequate enough? Then what can I do to help them feel more adequate?
Yeah, that's called rescuing. And we don't want to do that. And that's that, you know, there's a part, there's always, again, discernment. There's a continuum of everything, right? We think it's black and white, but really there's a continuum of everything. And when somebody needs you, are you jumping in right away and rescuing them? Or are you giving them a chance to discover on their own how to learn and grow? Okay. And as moms, there's young moms online. There are moments, yes, you have to go in when the children are young. There are moments you have to go in when your child is a teenager. But as they evolve, you can see that you become less and less involved, and you sort of do more questioning. It's really, you're doing coaching. What would you do? What would you like to do? What's in your heart? What choices do you have? Like, instead of telling them what to do. And that's the rescue model. And it doesn't, we need to do it, but not all the time, and hardly ever actually. But so being very aware of that. In coaching, we have to be super aware when we're going in and rescuing our client. Nothing to do with the client, everything to do with the coach.
Makes perfect sense. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the coach has to sort of, we do a lot of reflection. As a healer, I do a lot of reflection, holding space. Really, holding space is all that we really need to do for others. Everyone, giving them enough tools in a safe environment so that they can trust their own intuition. They can trust their own voices. They can trust their own heart space. Everyone has the answer. We just need to allow the space create the space for people to see, hear, and feel it.
I agree. And you did mention intuition. I know that's come up with a lot of my clients as well, because they're really not sure what to tune into. And I said, that is your little inner voice, and you need to
Mm-hmm.
listen to it.
Yeah. Intuition is a combination of experience and knowing. And I deal a lot in the energy space, spiritual, energetic space. So there's a lot of other, this isn't taught in my master's class, other things coming up, and it's knowing, like I know things. And how is that possible? And I probably always knew, I probably always had a knowing, did not trust it, needed to go to school, needed to be validated. And every time I went to the textbooks, I'm like, that's interesting. I actually know this. But now at least there's a whole bunch of research that validates it. So if you need to go down that path, great, for a while. But do trust yourself. You probably do know more than you do. And again, Alyson, I think the biggest one here is the grounding, because I know a lot of people are not grounded. And there are tools to ground, seriously ground into earth, into Mother Gaia, into the center, like grounding. And then the intuition is also trusting your heart center. There's an energy. We actually get our information through our heart first. What? Yes. Heart Institute, Heart Math Institute has done studies around this. And it's not through our brain we get the information. Our brain does a whole bunch of different things with this information, whether it goes to, old stories, hippocampus, all these, amygdala. It does a whole bunch of prefrontal cortex. I'm not going to go into the neural aspect of this, but the information actually comes through our heart first, our heart center energy first. Some say our gut, it's a combination, but really it comes like milliseconds through our heart center, and then it gets processed. But then the brain, the mind kind of does this thing. Trust your heart. What is your heart telling you? Trust your body. Yeah, and trust your body. Your body has a lot of information. Tapping into how are you feeling in your body about that situation, about that person, about that decision. And then I work a lot with clients around emotions, so that part of self-awareness is being aware of your emotions. Emotions are data. That's it. Data. We're little computers with programming. And this data comes in as emotions, no judgment, good or bad. It's all serving us, whether it's fear or happiness, surprise or disgust or sadness. It all serves us, or anger. But how are we, why are we triggered with that emotion, or and then what is that emotion telling us? What's the story? And then, because it's part of intuition. And then we can start unraveling the stories, because there are stories attached. And then we come to our awareness of whatever that experience or situation was. So trust your body and your emotions all are telling you some beautiful things. And we're just programmed as a computer. We've been programmed not to listen. And now we're getting back to time in our lives, or a time in this epoch, where we're remembering to listen.
It is very powerful, because when you say you do you, part of that is the slowing down, the paying attention, the staying present, because it will tell you a lot.
Yeah. And I'm not saying, so there's a flip to you do you from within. Narcissism, I'm going to bring it into the room. Narcissism is not you do you with no relationship to others and not paying attention to energy. Okay, you do you without the other parts of the wheel is narcissism. Just awareness around that one. So you can't say, I'm going to do me and then give up everyone around you. That's not healthy. It's not productive. And you're going to lose a lot of people unless they're toxic. And that's a whole other situation. Again, discernment around being around toxic relationships that aren't serving you. That's a different whole other podcast. And there's a lot of information out there. So I have a lot of empaths come into my space, and more often than not, they're in a narcissistic situation, whether it's a relationship, an intimate relationship, or a work relationship, or a family situation. So again, it's awareness, 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 awareness. So empowering women is going through the process of know self, know others, know your energy, know maybe start paying attention to energy, because it does really serve us to use this tool. And I use it a lot in my workspace. I'm so grateful. I've been open enough and curious enough to now explore and to do soul work. And then also trust yourself, trust the process, trust the universe.
Lots of trust.
Yeah, trust the messages. As
Awesome.
you can see, both of us have messages behind us and around us. Yeah.
All the time. Well, thank you. I mean, this has been absolutely wonderful, learning a lot for sure. And if there was one other thing that you wanted to leave with women with today, what would that be?
Connect with your heart. It's still heart-centered. Heart-centered space is so important. We discern from that space. We speak from that space. We create our businesses from that space. It's a very different space, and there's a different. I do frequency and vibration. There's a different frequency. It's a higher frequency, and we attract. Like will attract. So you will attract the clients that you're looking for when you're doing it from that space. It's more authentic. It's you. You are perfect the way you are, and you don't need to create. Can I add one more thing else? And just, I find a lot of people are seeing something in someone else and say, I want to be that. Oh. It's okay to kind of have a role model, but the awareness is, no, you do you, because you're special, and what your gift you're going to give to the world is what this world needs. It's not cookie cutting someone else's work. It's, you have a gift, and it's to tap into that in order that you can serve and to bring it forth in the world.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Andrea, for joining us today. And we'll make sure that all of your links get into the information here for everybody watching.
Okay. I'll send you the trust leadership one too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks for joining.
You're welcome.